Welcome, everybody, and welcome to this, and good afternoon, and welcome to this next innovation practice group. Today, we're focusing on the innovation practice group on ecosystem and nature-based solution. I'm Sylvia from Climate Kick. I'm happy to welcome you all in this room with a couple of other partners that are going to drive you through the entire session of today. To start, I would like to share with you a few technical considerations, just so you can feel comfortable along the process with us today. I would like to invite you all to please keep your microphone muted when you're not speaking, but also to unmute yourself if you would like to share something during the conversation. About the camera, it will be really lovely to see all your faces well, first of all, to know that you're here with us today, and second, to speak to someone and not to speak to names. Sometimes when you're on this side of the screen, like delivering many online activities, it's nice to see like faces all around instead of just names on black screens, let's say. So I would like to invite you all to turn on the camera. And then about how to engage with us today, we're going to have different tools that we're going to use. One is Zoom. So you're going to be invited to raise your hands in case you want to ask any question. You can go on React on the bottom bar, then click on Raise Hand, or just to react with any other reaction through Zoom. Another option is to use the chat. We're going to invite you to type your question in the chat if during the presentation you have anything that is coming up to your mind. And last but not least, we're going to use a Miro board through the process where we're going to collect all the information that we would like to share with you, but also all your input. So we're going to familiarize a little bit with that in the check-in. But before starting, I would like to introduce you what Innovation Practice Group are. I'm sure that many of you have already participated in previous Innovation Practice Group during this week. So probably you're already familiar and you already have seen those slides. But if it's the first time that you're coming here, I would like just to share that innovation practice groups are part of the program Pathway to Resilience. And the idea is to create those groups of learning and knowledge exchange guided by the regional challenges and needs. Innovation practice groups are guided by four main pillars. One is that those are the places where we would like to showcase best practices, so to try to highlight successful existing solution and other best practices that you are implementing at your regional level. The second thing is that innovation practice group are aimed to share expertise, so to use like this space to exchange knowledge on enabling condition and system. The second point is about develop plans and ideas. So we would like to bring all together expert practitioners to try to co-create new plans and idea about adaptation. And the fourth and last point is to have a broader perspective, so trying to gain a wider view of regional challenges all across Europe. The key objectives of Innovation Practice Group are three. The first one is to try to connect regions with sources of knowledge and expertise. And this is where the Miro board is going to be useful to collect like all different important knowledge and like tools in one place. The second objective is to connect the regions with the regions, so to create these kind of communities of innovative adaptation practitioners across Europe. And last but not least, to provide additional knowledge exchange opportunities with experts, but also with peer activities. I mentioned that the idea is to have those group guided by regional challenges and needs. And this is exactly connected with what is the Innovation Practice Group timeline. So today we're sitting with the IPGs week 1 that starts this Monday. We're going to have 2 more weeks before the end of the year, one in June and one in September. But everything started later in October 24th, when we had the kickoff meeting of Pathway to Resilience with the 39 regions that are working with us within the program. And we have invited the regions to define and identify challenges and needs related to all Innovation Practice Group topic. And starting from the challenges and need identified by the regions, so we have structured the content of the Innovation Practice Group happening this week. And this is going to be the case of what you're going to explore today with the ecosystem nature-based solution. As I mentioned, we're going to use a Miro board to collect all the information. The Miro board is going to be always available to you. You're also going to receive the link to the Miro boards after the call with our follow-up email later next week. But please already save the link that is going to appear on the chat in a few minutes on your laptop, so you're gonna always be able to be back to go back to the Miro board. The way it is structured is quite easy. On the top bar, you're gonna have the IPGs week's calendar, where you can register to the different session and when you can find the save the date for the second week. The central part represents the session content, so it's where we're gonna work all together. And last but not least, we have the wall of resources, where, as I mentioned, we would like to collect all the different knowledge exchange. So you're gonna have a different part where you can share like tools and template where you can share like resources or scientific papers, or if you want to share like your regional case study that you would like to present in a future session. And having said that, I think we are ready to move all together to the Miro board for our check-in. I hope you will see my screen changing somehow. And I'm now in Miro, so I would like to invite you to please click on the Miro link that hopefully is going to appear in the chat. I'm just waiting for my colleagues to share the Miro link. Yes, great. Thank you, Sayoa. So I kindly invite you all to please click on the link and join me on Miro so I can guide you through the check-in of today. I see that number here increasing. I'm gonna wait a few more minutes to bring you all where I am. Okay, 20 people already here. Okay, let me bring you all here. So normally now Miro have redirect you automatically where I am on your screen. And what I would like to invite you is to select one of those post-it according to if you are more financial, if you're more researcher, if you're a technical expert, if you're working on social activity or policy advocacy, and bring like a small post-it and type your name. You can double click on the post-it. You can type your name, the name of your organization, and then you can move the post-it very close to where you are located. I'm gonna put it here. And please, if you are located outside this map, feel free to go outside and don't stay like limited to the box. Think outside a little bit of the box as well. I can see that everybody starts moving. We have quite a lot of people coming from the eastern part of Europe today. A few coming from the western part. I'm gonna give you a few more minutes. If someone is not familiar with Miro, or if you're connected with the phone and you don't know how to post it around, feel free also to use the chat. So you can just type in the chat the name of your organization and the place where you're located, and we're going to create the Miro for you. The post-it, sorry. Okay. I see that people are still coming here. Also good to see we have a few researchers and a few technical experts today. Someone focusing on finance, apparently. Good. Thanks a lot. We're gonna come back to Miro later today during the session. And having said that, I will stop sharing my screen. Thanks everybody for playing with me. And I'm happy to pass the floor to Sayat, which is gonna guide us through the overall agenda of today. Sayat, the floor is yours.
I think we had a question for the check-in, right?
Yes.
And then we pass it on to Sayara for this. And this is just really to know where you stand right now in terms of your knowledge from nature-based solutions, so that the facilitators can know this, and you know, for the later discussions, they're just aware. Okay. We're kind of halfway from what I'm seeing. Let's just see if you can, all of you reply, and then I'll. Twenty out of 34. Any other responses coming in? 21. Okay. Okay. I think it's stopping there, so that's okay. So more or less, that's where we are. And it's just for everyone to know how is the room today. I think fair enough, a bit of a mix. So it's just for the facilitators and the speakers to know who is in the room later, it's fine. And now I think we can pass it on to Theo, and she's introducing us to the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paloma. So my name is Aya Zorita from Tecnalia, and today I will be one of the facilitators of the session. Just before we go into the agenda, I wanted to mention that as Silvia mentioned, we had the kickoff meeting with the Pathways to Resilience regions and cities, and this was the most voted topic. That's why we are addressing this in the first IPG, and then it's up to you what we will be discussing in the future IPGs. First of all, I want to explain a bit what you can expect from today. Hopefully, we can address the topic for different levels of expertise, starting from very basic to understand the concept of nature-based solution and its context, and then learn and discuss how to develop a nature-based solution monitoring plan, learn where to find evaluation metrics or indicators to assess nature-based solution benefits or impacts. And we will spend quite a good amount of time discussing among cities, regions, and experts on challenges and experiences around nature-based solution impact evaluation. This is the agenda for today. Let's see. We have already covered the IPG introduction as well as the check-in. I will continue with a brief introduction of nature-based solution, and then we will have two short, more theoretical presentation. First on how to set the monitoring plan, and the second short presentation on what metrics are available to assess nature-based solution benefits. And in between, we would like to get some feedback through Zoom poll, as we have done now, on two main questions. Then, as today's session is a bit longer than others, we will have a 5 or 10-minute break, and then we will move on into the dialogue about challenges and experiences. We will divide ourselves into 5 breakout rooms, and then we will gather all together so we can listen and hear from the key insights or key takeaways from different breakout rooms. And finally, then we will have, again, a very short presentation on another resource, and then the wrap-up and feedback. We have already done this. So I will start with the definition of nature-based solutions. Probably most of you are aware of it, but I wanted to highlight the UNEA, United Nations Environmental Assembly definition from 2022. And these are considered, nature-based solutions are considered actions to protect, conserve, restore, and sustainably use and manage natural or modified terrestrial, freshwater, coastal, and marine ecosystems, which address, and this is quite important, environmental, social, economic challenges that will help us to adapt and while simultaneously provide human well-being, ecosystem services, resilience, and biodiversity benefit. Now I will move on the context. First, I will start with the international context. And I will start with the Climate Manifesto, which was introduced in 2019 by the UN Climate Action in the summit. And it emphasized the critical role of nature in addressing climate change and biodiversity loss, which are two major challenges that we have today in our society. The key highlight is that nature-based solutions can provide over 1/3 of the cost-effective climate change mitigation needed by 2030, leveraging forest, grassland, peatland, and coastal ecosystems. In this manifesto, there are some key priority actions which are presented in the slide, which are integrate nature-based solution into national climate policies, enhance international collaboration, mobilize funding for nature-based solution initiatives and intervention, and scale up nature-based solution for mitigation, resilience, and adaptation. And this commitment has been signed by several entities, governments, private sector. At European level, we have different policy, either supporting or highlighting nature-based solutions, such as the European Green Deal. And we have three key policies that are a priority for nature-based solutions, which are the European Biodiversity Strategy, the Climate Adaptation Strategy, and the European Climate Law. Within these three policies, there are also some key actions associated with nature-based solutions, which are the restoration of the wetlands, peatlands, coastal and marine ecosystems, and the development of green infrastructure and afforestation, and also sustainable management of forests, grassland, and farmlands. If we go around the urban greening and nature restoration law, of course, we have the biodiversity strategy, as I mentioned before, but here it's key that introduce a legally binding ecosystem restoration targets. And maybe you have here some discussion in the last months between agriculture and the European Commission on when these targets should be defined, etc., etc. Then we have the nature restoration law, which ensures commitments for carbon sequestration and disaster risk reduction. And finally, but not least, we have the urban nature plans. And there it states that cities are encouraged to develop urban forests, parks, green roofs, and tree-lined streets, and the Green City Accord and the Urban Greening platform. All these policies highlight the importance of nature-based solutions and also the benefits that nature-based solutions can bring, as I mentioned before, for climate and biodiversity. As I mentioned before, it can have a big impact on climate mitigation, but also enhance resilience against climate impacts like flooding and heat waves. If we move to the biodiversity conservation, nature-based solutions can protect and restore our habitats, leading to an increased biodiversity. And also nature-based solutions support the vital ecosystem services such as pollination or water purification. But it's very important knowing which nature-based solution or nature-based interventions are effective and at what cost is crucial for informing decision about whether an intervention could be scaled up and replicated. But how can we ensure we are delivering these expected benefits? Through monitoring systems. And this is the main topic for today. Now I will move on to a bit, as I mentioned before, to theoretical presentations, which will set the scene for our interactive session and our dialogue later on. I will start with the monitoring plan, how to set the monitoring plan. But before doing that, this slide introduces key concepts related to monitoring of nature-based solution. Monitoring is considered or is a continuous process that tracks nature-based solution performance by comparing actual results with expected outcomes. This ensures that interventions are effective and adaptable. Nature-based solutions performance, on the other hand, refers to how well an objective is met in a specific context, considering the time, the location, the socioeconomic factors of the context. And finally, the impact evaluation focuses on understanding the cause and effect relationship, helping us to understand the broader benefits or trade-offs of nature-based solutions. The diagram on the right illustrates how we measure effectiveness. For example, a component or a system, which can be, for example, a wetland, has a capacity. The capacity would be the retention volume that enables a function to be achieved. The effectiveness or performance of the nature-based solution is determined by how well it meets its intended objectives. In this case, it would be the flood reduction. This is measured by indicators or metrics, ensuring that performance aligns with regional or local goals. This means that monitoring frameworks are essential for guiding investment in resilient infrastructure and ensuring nature-based solutions deliver the expected benefits that we have seen before. On the other hand, nature-based solutions can also be a part of a decision-making at local and regional level. Apart from understanding if a nature-based solution is addressing the desired challenges, assessing nature-based solution effectiveness can be seen as several decision-making problems. It can help you to decide what is the most effective nature-based solution. It can also allow you to understand in which category of effectiveness does the nature-based solution you may be intending to implement belong. And very related, which is almost the same, is the ranking, which is what is the effectiveness of the nature-based solution ranking from the worst to the best. Sorry. This slide outlines the key steps in developing a structured monitoring process, because apart from understanding that we need to develop a monitoring plan, there are certain steps that are desirable to follow. This is not the only approach. This is a framework that is being developed for Embracer project and that is being tested, but of course there could be other similar examples. But in general, first, the monitoring team is established to coordinate the process. Next, we understand the baseline, assessing existing conditions before nature-based solution implementation. The expected impacts are identified to define what success may look like in its context, which may be different from place to place. A selection of the nature-based solution to be assessed ensures focus on relevant interventions. That would be more or less step 4. Then a set of key performance indicators is defined to measure progress and effectiveness. And then around the implementation, when you should be monitoring, you usually do this in 2 phases, a pre-monitoring to track initial conditions and the post-monitoring to measure the changing and the real impact or benefits from the nature-based solutions. Finally, all the data and information is gathered and an impact assessment is conducted to evaluate the effectiveness and inform future policy and actions. And around step 5, it's not only about defining KPIs, it's also about developing the monitoring plan, which also accounts for the data plan, and it tells you how to structure or it's a structure on how to monitor will take place and under which conditions. Usually, a monitoring plan contains different elements. Here, I present also another example from Clever Cities project, where the information was divided into main components. First, the data collection and measurement, which includes what will be measured, in this case, the key performance indicators, the data sources, whether you need to gather the information through surveys, sensors, stakeholder feedback, or even other means. As well, you should set the frequency how often do you need to monitor to assess or the improvement or the benefits from nature-based solutions. And also there is a data storage section that needs to be accounted, especially when people's information are gathered. So data protection plan should be in place for health or for human people-related information. As well, it should be clear the responsibilities and the governance within the monitoring plan. Who will monitor, which parts will be monitored by whom, who will review the data, or analyze it, who will gather the lessons learned. Here we are just mainly focusing on monitoring, but around all monitoring there is a space for a lessons learned section to improve what we are doing. And then also we need to have a clear understanding who will act on the findings and what it will be done. So the reporting and the communication with these findings. Who will receive the report? Is it the policy? Is it the funding body? Is it the citizens? Also, depending on that, you will have a different reporting format, which can be a dashboard, a written report, presentations, etc., etc. And also very important, the follow-up actions. So what adjustments in strategies or policy need to be in place to continue improving and getting the benefits you are expected, also identifying extra needs for resource allocation, capacity building initiatives, etc., etc. Now I will move on a little to the process to identify and select key performance indicators. The image that is presented, it reflects again that there is not just one way of doing things. There may be different approaches. Here, I will also present the approach tested in Clever Cities project, which is a bit more structured compared, for example, to reflexive monitoring approach. Basically, this step was divided into 7 or 6 steps. First, the societal challenges were identified. And based on the societal challenge, we developed different theory of change to understand the goals that wanted to be achieved and where the different cities were at. And after that, the most relevant outcomes were identified and selected. And from there, the identification of appropriate KPIs was done. After that, there was a pool of KPIs and associate methods. So there was a refinement process. And finally, there was a quality control step. So validate that the KPIs will help to measure the success of the challenge. Now I will just present very briefly these 3 steps in red. through the theory of change. For those who are not that aware of the theory of change, it resembles a roadmap that helps explain how and why a certain set of activities, which are presented here, are expected to lead to the desired vision and outcomes. So yes, you set first the vision, then you look to the reality, and then you go back casting. You set the outcomes, outputs, activities, bridging. So from the challenge and the reality, you are at how you will reach to the vision and impact you want. And when you identify all these elements, then it's much easier to identify the appropriate KPIs for the outputs and the KPIs that can measure the outcomes you are expected to be seen by nature-based solutions. KPIs, or key performance indicators, may be identified and developed together with thematic experts in co-creation workshops or with relevant stakeholders, or even via literature. For example, this resource, the Handbook for Practitioners, will be presented later, which is a resource to find indicators. Well, or at least a part of it is for that. And then, but not least, it's also important not to forget to perform a quality assessment of the KPIs, and there are different frameworks. Again, you could look to the different criteria for developing ecosystem services, so around this framework, or you could have or apply a classical approach, which are the SMART criteria, where you evaluate and assess if each indicator is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound for the intended benefits or outcomes. And now it's time we go back again to the Zoom pool, as we want to understand better which are the areas you would like to learn most or reflect on around monitoring plan setting. Maybe I will stop the presentation, and we will allow some minutes for collecting any of your inputs and feedback. Okay, so then we will move on to the next short presentations. Indicator definition, as I mentioned before, is vital to assess performance. And in this presentation, given by Laura Wendling, lead author of the Handbook for Practitioners on Nature-Based Solution Impact Evaluation, will present this key resource where regional and local authorities can go and consult to identify relevant indicators or metrics to address environmental, social, and economic challenges by nature-based solutions. So please, Laura, we welcome you to the session.
Thanks, Sarah. Could you advance the slide? Great. So first I want to let everybody know that there were around 190 different experts who contributed to the development of this handbook series. So there were 17 individual research projects and all the people within those projects, plus the EEA and people from JRC. So at the time, we started this in around 2017, and the handbook was published in 2021. And there was a veritable tsunami of information. It felt like there was a lot of people who wanted to tell us what to do and how to do it, but it hadn't been really consolidated. So this was an effort to consolidate all of that information and try to create a resource that would guide everybody through a common approach. And what we ended up with was a handbook that talks about how to set up a monitoring scheme. But what I want to talk about today is the appendix of methods. And This is fascinating reading. If you haven't yet seen it, have a look. Head out to your local bookstore. It's a little over 1,000 pages, and you could advance to the next slide. There are 446 individual indicators that are spread across these 12 societal challenge areas. There's something for everyone. I know that I hear a lot of the time people saying that they don't know what to measure or there's not enough choice. I promise you, there is something in the handbook that will suit your situation. And if not, then there's enough information there to help you, to guide you towards creating a metric that is exactly what you need. But we looked at 12 societal challenge areas and tried to find what were the really key challenges that nature-based solutions are capable of addressing. So these cover environmental, social, and economic aspects. So we're looking at these multiple benefits, and we had different levels of, or a different number of different methods or different indicators in each category. Next slide. As you can see from this slide, we had quite a few indicators in the water management and climate hazard and green space management categories. And to some extent, this was an artifact of the types of projects that were developed at the time or that were ongoing at the time. And since its publication in 2021, there have been a lot more projects. I think now it's close to 90, 95 different NBS projects that have been financed by the European Union. So at the time, there were around 30. This will fill out, and I would like to also emphasize that the handbook is not a set in stone document. It will continue to iterate and be improved, and I guess we'll have volume 2, volume 3 in the future. But right now, this is the single resource that we have where we have all this consolidated information, and each of the indicators is presented in a similar way. Next slide. So there's obviously quite a bit of difference between types of indicators. We have indicators that are based on understanding the processes and the impacts of the process. So we know that nature-based solutions are not only the output, the physical end, the end point, but it's the process that is also very important and where we derive a lot of benefit. So we have process-based indicators, we have outcome-based indicators that really are looking at what was the end point and what happened. And then there are other indicators that are more about understanding what our status is. Do we have enough resources? What is our current baseline? So in this example, we're showing some recommended indicators in green space management. So across each category, the experts who are involved in creating the handbook tried to define if we have, well, we always have limited resources and time, but knowing that we have limited resources and time, if we can only recommend a handful of indicators in each of these categories, what would they be? And what do we think is going to yield the greatest benefit, the most information, or be the most applicable to the widest range of nature-based solutions? So here we can see there are 4 indicators. One is 731, the soil organic matter index is kind of a subset of the soil organic matter content. But the group who developed this felt that these were the indicators of nature-based solution performance and impact that would give us the best information about green space management and the contribution of NBS to green space management. So if you look to the right side of the screen, you can see this is the first part of one of the methods that you can find in the handbook. So for each method, we have a variable amount of information, and it depends a lot on the type of method it is and how detailed it needed to be versus what is easy to find in the literature. If you show the next slide, we can have a look at the rest of the indicator, the method. So for each method, we have a description and justification, and this tells us what the method is, what it measures, and why you would want to use it. We have identified the strengths and weaknesses of each. So with any measurement, there will be things that are really good about the way this particular metric is measured, and then there will be weaknesses. A lot of that has to do with, I guess when we were writing it, a lot of the strengths and weaknesses had to do with what are the limitations, how much expertise is required to do it. Is this something that anyone can do? Is it something that we could involve stakeholders in? Or is this something that requires a great deal of very high level expertise? So those were some of the things that are taken into account there. There's a very brief description of the procedure and the tools that are used, and some discussion of the scale of measurement. So are we measuring at like plot scale or district or a whole city, or is this really quite wide and regional? And then we go a lot into data. So what information do we need to collect? What are the required data and how often do we need to collect them? So is this a one-off? Are we measuring before and after, or is this something that needs to be measured periodically at a certain frequency? Here we talk about the level of expertise required to gather the data and to analyze it. And we also look at synergies with other indicators. This may not seem like it's very important, but I want to come back to limited time and money. Synergies with other indicators are intended to help us find out how these fit together like bits of a puzzle. If we collect this bit of data, where else could we use it? And in here, you can see in this example, we have the synergies with other indicators as a distribution of green areas or access to green areas. So by collecting the information that for this particular method, we can use some of the same information to also look at these other two indicators. I hope that makes sense. I'm wondering if I've confused myself here. But the idea is, how can we maximize value? How can we use these data for multiple purposes? We talk about the opportunities for participatory data collection. So in each method, we've tried to indicate how the method can be made participatory. How can we work with local stakeholders? And in some cases, there's mention of sort of the examples of, can we work with school children? Can we have meetings with the general public? How can we make this participatory? Finally, we look at the connection with the SDGs. And again, this is very important. And we saw earlier the United Nations Environment Assembly definition of nature-based solutions. And this is really directed towards nature-based solutions to achieve sustainable development globally. So the link between NBS and sustainable development goals is extremely strong. This was recognized when we were developing the handbook, and we tried to say for each methodology, which sustainable development goals could this potentially deliver information for? And then finally, there's a reference for each, ideally with links, so that it makes it very easy to find more information about each method. And I think, do I have one more slide, or was that it? That was
Yes.
it.
Yes. Thank you, Laura. And now a bit to reflect on this second presentation that was nicely outlined by Laura. We wanted to get some feedback around these societal challenges that were presented at the beginning. We have another Zoom question that will be popping out in any second, where you can identify which are the three main challenges from your perspective or in your context or in your work. I think I will just...
We have questions coming in, and Tayo, I don't know if you want to go back to...
I did. Yes,
previous...
sorry, I didn't have the time to read the questions because I was sharing the screen. So maybe I don't know if we can.
We have put the answers from the previous question in the Miro. I don't know if Silvia, you can share screen maybe very quickly. And we can go over those while we wait for the rest of them to answer this second question. So these are some of the answers from the previous one.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I cannot read very well. I will go to the middle.
Let's maybe zoom in a little bit, Silvia. Thank you. Yeah, so we have areas of nature-based solutions that overlap with socio-economic health data, inputs on relevant data, those that go well together, public greenery, monitoring tools, ideas and plans, water quality, metrics for quantitative evaluation, integration with other monitoring and evaluation systems, not only topic-wise, but also across governance levels, carbon storage, coastal area nature-based solutions to adapt to climate change, I'm guessing, responsibilities and governance, reporting and communication. And the last one is, oh, there's more. Okay. I'm interested in finding climate change adaptation actions, in particular green actions that would be applied to reduce risk of flood, landslides, and to mitigate risk of drought and water scarcity. Okay. And then we have understanding what should be measures, what is an effective KPI for nature-based solutions and resilience, effectiveness of nature-based solutions, objectives and key performance indicators, data collection methods, data analysis and interpretation tools and technologies, compliance and standards, risk management. Okay, a lot of things. So Sayo, I don't know if you have any comments on this. You have a lot of information there.
Yes, I think in a way some of the points that Laura covered in the second presentation about, I have the feeling that there is some gap in knowledge that related to quantification of this benefit that I think Laura highlighted. As Laura mentioned, the handbook apart, I mean, there is a first section which covers many aspects of impact assessment in general, and then we focus on the second, on the appendix here. And I think many of these post-its are related to how to assess these benefits around these challenges. So I'm glad that we had this second presentation, which hopefully it covered somehow some of these points. Just I'm just looking to the results from the second question. I mean, about the first question, sorry. Hopefully in the breakout rooms, we will be able to discuss some of these points more in detail. And then I'm just looking what it has been most voted, which is climate resilience, biodiversity enhancement. Let's see if then water management, natural and climate hazards. These are the most voted topics. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to have this information in advance. So in the middle board, we will have in 2 minutes, like a 5 minutes break. So we can stretch our legs or go to the loo or have a tea or coffee. And then in the middle board, we will have 5 themes that I will present after. And we choose some of the topics that we thought that may be of interest, but I see they are not all your priority in a way. But hopefully you can also find some interest for that. So let's go to a 5 minute break and we come back at 3:05. And then we explain you what we will do and which topics will be covered in different breakout rooms.
Someplace under the sun.
Okay, we're back. Sayo, I don't know if that's Are you going to
Yes.
introduce the breakout rooms now?
Yes, thank you. Yes, sure. Yes. So now we will move to the second part of the session, which is more on interactive part among the different participants. The breakout room is going to be a Miro-based discussion, where first we will put stickers, and then hopefully we can have some experiences that can address these stickers. We have 5 breakout rooms that will discuss some of the challenges that presented Laura, and 2 topics are possible to discuss, 1, 2, or both, depending on the interest of the participants, around plan monitoring, plan development, key indicators, or impact evaluation in general. The 5 breakout rooms are: the first one, just remember the topic so you know which one you want to join. The first breakout room is water management. The second breakout room is health and well-being. The third one is biodiversity enhancement. The fourth breakout room is social justice and social cohesion. And the last one is place regeneration. In the first breakout room, it will be Laura, who will be the facilitator. The second one, it's my colleague Ikone. On the third one is Tabea from GIB. On the fourth one, I will be the facilitator. And on the fifth one, it will be my colleague Carolina. The breakout rooms are interactive engagement thought. That means participants are encouraged to share insight, challenges, and experiences. So please don't be shy. Any experience is relevant, any perspective is relevant, and there is no wrong or answer or comment. So facilitators will guide the discussion, but the idea is that you discuss and that the facilitators don't talk all the time. Ideally, one of you will take notes. So at the end of the Miro exercise, we will gather all together, and the key person or the representative of each breakout room can explain the main takeaways or the main ideas that you were discussing. And in the bottom of the Miro board, there is a place where you can use, maybe I can share, sorry. I will share the Miro so you know what I'm talking about. So this is the Miro board. Each breakout room has one area to work. Here you have the name of the facilitator. And when we go to plenary, just maybe a bit before going to plenary, each person who will describe the main topics discussed or the main takeaways, you can please have a note here just as a summary. So that in the future, when other participants come, we have a summary. I mean, we will have different IPGs. So when the second IPG people or participant come, they can always come and reflect on what we discussed today. So basically, that would be all from my side.
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
And
We're gonna open the rooms. I saw a question there saying if we can choose the room. Yes, you can choose the room that you would like to join. You have the breakout numbers and the names of the topic in the chat if you have any thoughts. And you should be able to see the option to join, but if you can't, you need to look on the bottom where you have all the features with the microphone and so on, and look for the 3 dots where it says more, and then breakout rooms. But still, let us know if you're not able to see it, and we could also assign you.
Okay, we're all back here, so welcome back, everybody. Sayal, we'll pass over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you for participating in this discussion. I hope that you found the topic interesting. And now it's the time to hear what you have been discussing in the different breakout rooms. Since I think we only had 3 breakout rooms. Is that right, Silvia? So then we have a bit more time for explaining the conversations, the learnings, the key insights. So I don't know. I think breakout room 1, I think you were discussing. So please, I don't know who wants to. Nicola?
Yes, great. Well, our breakup room was concerned about water management, and when we started, we had several, very different, let's say, directions of our conversation. So what we're interested, like how to predict rain in order to collect real water samples, or how to predict extreme weather events. There was another issue regarding coordinating the opinion of different stakeholders and how to make some stakeholders who are in power, to make them listen or to cooperate. Then we also one was about groundwater quality and intensive food production, and also land occupation for food production versus natural fields, and how to align sampling schedules with the project timelines and also public administrations, So we discussed more about, we shared our experiences regarding the issues of stakeholder involvement, how to make stakeholders cooperate, and also how we talked about different indicators of nature-based solutions, how to make them relevant, for example, for our research, for people who are we trying to benefit, So I think we had many interesting examples from Spain, Portugal, and also regarding winter tourism, And I think we shared some opinions, and for me personally, it was very interesting, and it gave me some ideas, especially the issue of stakeholders' involvement and how to make stakeholders cooperate, So I think it was pretty productive. We are not discussing all the times, but it was, I think, pretty productive. I hope that my group agreed.
Thank you very much, Nicola. Since we have some time, I will allow myself or other participants from any other breakout room. From what you summarize, it seems that one of the main challenges, it was more on the institutional or governance level, on the stakeholder engagement. Of course, the challenge is always how to reduce the impact, but then there are enabling conditions on how to do this effectively. And what I think I'm hearing is that you have detected one very relevant enabling condition in order for projects to be successful and achieve the benefits that you expect. And this is the stakeholder engagement, interaction, collaboration. Is that right, or?
Yes, I believe that that's right. Yeah.
And just for the other, because this is I think a bit more transversal topic. Could you share with us which suggestions were there in your room to address this? Because I think this may be something useful for any other topics.
We heard a great example, for example, from a region where you have winter tourism, where you have people who are in charge of skiing, skiing tourism, and also from other part of over tourism that you have in some parts of Mediterranean. We had example from Spain that they made them. You have a stakeholder who is in power, who doesn't want to cooperate, who has economic power and also political background. So they made a type of consortium. Where they put all the different stakeholders. So you are not alone in pressure when you want to pressure the stakeholder who has very problematic point of view. So you have another stakeholders who can be on your side. So that's a very interesting solution that I didn't find anywhere before, but that's a way where you can make them listen and make them cooperate. Especially if you have some, like in our case, we have cooperation with local politicians and also regional, who are on the side of nature protection, like in our case. So I think that's a good idea also. But we also had some open issues of like example where you have olive production, for example, and where you have all those issues that come from the olive productions, like with water use, also air pollution and any other. But we didn't have anything, any experience to share with that issue.
Okay.
So that's something
Okay.
open for in the future, maybe.
Yes, we will later on try to assess future topics to be discussed. It can be new or deepen in specific areas. Thank you very much, Nicola. I don't know if there is any question for this group before we move to the next group. Okay. Yes, Laura, you wanted to mention something, or it's an applause?
No, I was trying to clap.
Yeah, I was not sure
That's the
if it was
clapping
a clap.
emoji.
Yes, very good. I'm very happy that there was a conversation and some collaboration in or exchanges, at least in some topics. Thank you very much. We will move to the breakout room 2. It's health and well-being. In this case, we only had one representative, regional or municipal representative, but we had a dialogue. So Olivier, if you could summarize the discussion that we had around this topic.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked a lot about input guidance in relation to what possible nature-based solutions there are, because we haven't really looked that much, but we see that they can be relevant in areas we may look into. So also ensuring that these climate adaptation indicators have synergies with other areas that we're already working on. So if we look at it from a nature-based solutions perspective, then by planting more trees in green areas near hospitals where we work, then it will be more cooler for staff and for patients. And this synergy can also be in relation to hydrological risks, such as pluvial flooding, so that the soil can retain and absorb more water in relation to hydrological risks. And then we also talked about more broad non-nature-based solutions, synergies in relation to climate data, but that was maybe a bit beside the point. But I've written it down in case anyone would be interested.
Yes, here, as Laura mentioned before, about synergies with other policies, one clear also link was to disaster risk management, on how to link these different policies, health, a lot of focus on hospital buildings, because these are the competencies that they have at local level. I don't know if there is any question for Olivier. No? Okay. Hopefully next time, Olivier, you have more peers from local authorities. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the last breakout room, place regeneration.
So I took some notes, but because I'm not a speaker, because I'm not a region, I would invite the other regions to contribute to this once I've given a quick summary. So we had 3 big topics we discussed about all around the monitoring plan. And the first bucket was data, making sure that the data is that the data can be procured, and then that the KPIs that are being generated with this data are representative of the goals that you want to assess. And then making that link to the baseline assessment can be really difficult. So just ensuring that you have the right data, that you select the right indicators, and not too many, but the right amount, and linking that to the baseline. Then the second point was also stakeholders, which we actually talked about the most, which very much echoes what the water group was focusing on. So ensuring that the communication and the alignment of goals between different groups and different departments and regions is met. That can be really tricky. And just making sure that communication works between them is one of the key points. And then we talked about the timing issue, which is that sometimes it can be really difficult to show results or to sort of link the monitoring to results, and that long time frame can be brought down through modeling and sort of forecasting or showcasing what possible results could be. I don't know if anybody else wants to contribute from the region point of view. We had some really good discussions.
I see it has been a bit more technical, but very interesting, I can say. Any question to group, well, in this case, 3, place regeneration? If not, well done, everyone. Thank you for sharing, which is the most important, learning from each other. And I would close this section about the breakout rooms. And we also wanted to present you with the last final short presentation about another resource, very interesting, with a lot of material. And we have today Daniela Ricci, the manager of Network Nature, with us. So Daniela, I would invite you to give some food for thought for future.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much, Sayoa. Just a second. I'm gonna share my screen, and whereas I find here the file to share, I just wanted to say hi, and I'm happy to share some words about Network Nature and what the platform is about. If you haven't heard of this, this is actually a one-stop shop where we try to unite resources and, in terms of guidances, but also policy briefs, tools, cases from different of our projects. So at the moment, the European Commission is funding 90 plus projects, so almost 100 projects focusing on nature-based solutions. And Network Nature is the one-stop shop for that. And I want to show you a little bit some functionalities of the platform. Let me just see if it's this one. Yeah. Here, slideshow. And then I can share. Nice to see you, Laura. Okay, there. So just give me a heads up if you can see the screen.
Not yet. Now it's
Coming?
coming up.
No?
And now, yes, we can see your screen.
Great.
Thank
Yeah, I'm not going to show too many slides because I promise that I'm not going to be too long here, but I think it's nice for you to have a little bit visuals. So what we do, we try to bring together very different actors that are involved in nature-based solutions, because we have noticed that sometimes these actors are scattered and, projects don't speak to one another, and, and we actually gain more if we can see what each other is working on and collaborate. So Network Nature is a one-stop shop for people looking for information on nature-based solutions, but it's also a place where the community can meet and exchange. And we do this because we want to make sure we can upscale nature-based solutions, but also we want to close the policy science gap that we have that is actually a big one. So yeah, you can see here, this is the last infographic from REA. REA is the Research Executive Agency of the European Commission, and they are actually, as I speak, updating this infographic. So it's actually now, it's more than 850 million euros. It's more than 92 projects. I think it's 95 projects. So the partners went up, the countries went up, and the topics went up. In the Network Nature community, we not only welcome the projects of Cluster 6 of Horizon, but we also welcome the projects of the missions. So mission adaptation projects working on nature-based solutions are also onboarded to Network Nature. And what that means actually is that they are invited to be engaged in the task forces. I have a slide about the task forces, but before I go into the task forces, I wanted to mention the hubs. So we have been forming national nature-based solutions hubs in different countries. Some of them are being led by a city, some of them are being led by a ministry. And actually, it's interesting because the Nordic hub is actually a conglomerate of different countries. So you have, Scandinavia inside the Nordic hub, whereas you have, for example, the Portuguese hub, that you have very active academia, or maybe some cities are active. There is the Ukrainian hub. We have a Polish hub. Yeah, and now as I speak, we're also founding a French hub. So this is coming up. There are conversations about a Dutch NBS hub in the Netherlands, and they are thinking about creating a Danish hub. So from Denmark. So that one would be a little bit different than the Nordic hub. These hubs are important because they create local language, right? Here you can see a little bit how to approach Network Nature. So there is the case study finder. You can have access to databases. So we have done extensive work in terms of checking the gaps, the knowledge gaps related to nature-based solutions, but also you can do searches about what the different projects are doing. So there is a database. It has more than, I think, 3,000 entries or something, from different live projects, Horizon projects, and beyond. And you can search for keywords. And there's also a roadmap for research and innovation on nature-based solutions that Biodiversa Plus has co-developed with Network Nature. And we try to align the work of the task forces with this roadmap. And you can also search for different resources according to the type, sector, target audience. Yeah, here a little bit how it looks. This will change. So Opla, which is the programmer of the website, they are actually working to launch a new website. So this design will be old news very soon. You have also a calendar here of events, everything related to Network Nature, nature-based solutions community we try to put in. And if you are, subscribed to Network Nature, you can upload your own events as well. So it's a bit of a bottom-up way to populate the events calendar. here, maybe it's important to very quickly just say that we have these 6 policy themes. So as Network Nature is focusing on bringing all the knowledge that is coming from this research and innovation projects and innovation actions to policymakers, we are focusing on these different topics. So biodiversity and ecosystem restoration, but also sustainable food systems, climate resilience, NBS for finance, nature positive economy. Then we have a stream that is focusing on urban and regional transformation. So this is more like urban and peri-urban related topics. And then we have zero pollution topic and the relationship with nature-based solutions. So the idea is that each of these topics will come up with really a policy package, so that policymakers can be trained and actually bring it up, you know, so that we can unlock new financing streams for NBS. Yeah, so we hope that the interface of the website is going to be enhanced soon. Last but not least, the task forces. We focus on these 6 different topics, and Network Nature actually leads on 5 of these, apart from the NBS Education Task Force, which is being led by the project NBS Edu World. Maybe some of you know it. Yeah, but otherwise these task forces, some of them are more active, others are less active. But the idea is that we can synthesize, you know, the outputs of the different projects and create joint outputs. So this is actually what these task forces are about. So I'll give an example of Task Force 3. That's one of them that actually I'm really active as a member as well, apart from coordinating Network Nature, is the task force that we're working now in a EC expert publication on the nature positive economy and positioning nature-based enterprises. So we're working in 6 different chapters with 20 different projects, and we have meetings to discuss and to create the content of the publication. Yeah, so I hope that you had a little bit of a taste. The case study finder, actually this should be growing more and more. We have now more than 500 entries. There's always a little bit of issues according to the quality, you know, because we need a minimum quality to put the projects here to the case study finder. So yeah, but we are trying to build this up, and you can see that we have nature-based solutions cases from the different continents. Yeah, I think that's it. Before I close, just to say that Network Nature is not the only platform. So OPLA is also an API with Network Nature. So you're going to see it published in both. But there's also the Urban Nature Atlas, which is a very nice resource where they have, I think, 1,000 cases as well. And you can have these different filters to look for the case. And there's also the Nature-Based Solutions initiatives from the University of Oxford. They also have a case database. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. So
thank you very much for this short overview. The idea was, I call the section food for thought. So just a hint of what they can find, very interesting resource place, like as you mentioned, one-stop shop. So the idea is, please go test, dig in, and hopefully you will find something that is of interest for you, because there is a lot of knowledge there. And now we will be finishing, but before we finish, we have 2 main tasks. One is about covering what topics do you want to discuss in the future, and also a little survey. My colleagues from Climate Geek, they will go over these topics with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Daniela, for the presentation. I think everyone was finding it very interesting. So if you have any questions, maybe you can drop them in the chat and we can forward those to Daniela as well. Well, yeah, the first point we want to go through here is just to ask you topics that you would like to explore more. So we're going to ask you to put this in the chat, and we can copy this later ourselves to the Miro, so that you can always go back to the Miro board. And if you have any future ideas, maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks, of future sessions, topics for sessions, then you can just come back to the Miro and put them there. But for now, if you could just go ahead and write in the chat any ideas that are coming to mind right now after today's session. And this is anything related to nature-based solutions, but within that, it can be really anything. So go ahead. And while you do that, maybe we can move with the feedback survey at the same time, so you can try to contribute where your mind is and where you feel like you can put more energy to. So we're going to launch a poll right now in Zoom, and this is for you to give us feedback on today's session. Let me see if okay. You should see this on the screen now. So we're going to give you a couple of minutes for both of these things, topics for future sessions in the chat, and for you to fill in the feedback survey. This is really important for us to just tailor the sessions a bit better. We are really like learning from this first week, and we want to try to adjust the formats, the dynamics that are happening in the breakouts and so on. So just try to give us your input, and we'll try to adjust as much as we can. We also open the possibility for you, in case you want to present any case studies or any expert, like bring an expertise. Maybe like today you saw a few presentations. So if you feel like you could be contributing somehow to the future sessions, then we also have a forum that we will be showing you in a moment. Sylvia, I don't know if you're with me here, but
Yeah,
if you are,
just give me 1 second to copy the link.
okay, no, I was just gonna say to share the Miro, because it's also in there. But
Me too.
okay. So far, 3 things: future topics, the feedback, and the forum, in case you want to present any future case studies or presentations. You can find it here in the wall of resources, where it says regional case studies, and you click on the top right in the image, and it takes you directly to the link. But we are also going to share the link in the chat in a moment, so you can also have this. Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, let's maybe go back to the Miro, and as I see that you're filling in the feedback form, so thank you very much for that. I'm just gonna leave that open for those of you that are still filling it in. And I just want to remind everyone that the wall of resources is for you to like share among yourselves. So if there's any link that you feel you need to add, please do it as soon as possible, so we can have it for everyone to come back to this. The Miro is going to be open for this session and the future 2 weeks of IPGs. You can find in the top, well, we have 2 more sessions happening tomorrow. So on Friday, let's just zoom in there. Friday, we have critical infrastructure in the morning from 10 to 12, and then we have finance and resources from 2 to 4:30, is that? Yes. So if you haven't registered for those yet and you want to, just click on the register here, and it will take you directly to the Zoom page where you can register. And then we also have the week 2 calendar already in this, while we don't have the registration links yet because we're still closing on the exact times. These are the dates and the slots, so you can just save the date for those sessions that you really feel would be of interest to you, and we will be super happy to have you for that one as well. Okay, and I think on the Miro, that's it really. So yeah, you have everything from today there, so you can always come back, and we'll be using the Miro for future sessions as well. I see that we have at least a few responses, so thank you for those of you who have filled this in. I see Sayo, you want to say something?
Yes. Maybe if you could share again the Miro board. I can see that no one is writing on the topic section.
Yeah, we asked them to put this in the chat, but I don't see.
Okay, sorry.
But I don't see many comments on the chat either. So in case there's any future ideas coming to mind, so that you know where to give us this feedback. You can just come to this place in Miro where it says, what topics would you like to explore further? I think the question is very, very straightforward. So if you can just come back to this at any moment and give us any ideas that you have, it would be really helpful for us, because we're also trying to think of topics that would really be interesting for you and not just for us. So
Yes.
that's for you.
In a sense, tomorrow or the other, or in the following days, if you discuss with your colleagues, then you can come back and add any topic that may be of relevance for you, because we want the things that may be useful, interesting for you.
Great. Well, I think that's it from our side, really. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we hope to see some of you in tomorrow's sessions as well, or in the future week of IPGs, which is happening in June. And thank you to Sayoa and the rest of speakers and facilitators. And that's it. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Everybody. Bye.